Hi, welcome to our show. I'm Dr. Rudy Cashman. I have two wonderful guests with me today. Chris Norman from the Grace Gathering Church, who has started the Daniel Plan. This is what we'll be speaking about today. And he's probably the most successful person in the city with this plan to get a large group of people. I'm just anxious to listen to how it's working there. And Karen Staten, who's been in previous shows with me from the Lifestyle Church. Karen tells me today, and we've been working together a couple of months now, tell me through this wellness program, she's lost 15 pounds.
We're
ecstatic about that.
I am excited. 10 pounds since I've seen you last. Yes.
Is that right?
I mean, 5 pounds since I've seen you last.
Well,
yes, and we did last year.
She had not forgotten. I promised her she gets to her goal, which is another 10. I'd buy her a red dress.
I can't wait. That's good motivation for me.
Thought maybe she'd forgotten, but
no.
But no. And you know what is wellness? You know, wellness is participating in what we do to improve our lifestyle and our well-being. That's really wellness. And I think the majority of Americans, frankly, not well. It's lack of knowledge, and that's even in the Bible.
Yeah, my people perish for lack of knowledge. Yes.
Yeah, we perish because of lack of knowledge, and I have felt, and Chris and Karen has felt that through the Daniel Plan, the faith, food, fitness, focus, and friends is the best way for us to change our thought process and becoming well. It's not just about eating, it's about being well all psychologically, physically, in every way. Yes. And we are trying to promote this throughout the community. And you two clearly are doing it. But I'm so anxious to hear, Chris, from you. And I've been to your church a couple of times, and I've loved your services, just like I've been to Karen's church services.
Great format.
And a great format.
Yes.
Karen's
Friendly
been there
people.
also, and we're really highly impressed on your ability. And
he's so young.
And he's so young. and you know, I went to the National Wellness Conference, and number one is leadership from the top. And you exemplify that as well as Karen and Chris so well, that you are well, you're physically fit, so is your wife. You walk with the people, you run with the people, you fight with the people. I must say, this sort of thing just turns me on. So Chris, tell us about your experience.
Your journey. What was the
your
journey?
What
was this Daniel Plan thing?
Yeah, well, thanks so much, Dr. Cashman, for having me on the show. And the journey really started for me kind of in a personal way, and it started about 5 years ago. And there's a little bit of a funny story the way it started. We were at a staff party. It was a Christmas party, and one of our staff members, we were kind of enjoying just some conversation, and I challenged one of our staff members to do a triathlon someday. And I said to him, I said, look, if you do a triathlon someday, I'll do one with you. Now, I had never done a triathlon. I couldn't swim really. I've never rode a bike since I was in high school. Couldn't run a mile. All that kind of stuff. Hadn't exercised in years and years and years, and didn't really take care of my health at all. And so he said, "I'll tell you what, I'll do it." So that was 5 years ago. And so he did this triathlon. I started doing this triathlon with him, and it was that which kind of launched me into this whole journey of starting to exercise. So I went into the pool. I couldn't swim 2 laps without having to take a break. I started running. I couldn't run a mile, and I hadn't gotten on a bike since I was a teenager. And that just started this journey of just starting small and doing some exercise. So that kind of led one thing after another. I did this triathlon that summer. He did it as well. And then after that, the next summer, I thought, you know what, this was kind of fun. I thought maybe I'll try another triathlon. Started another triathlon, and over the next 5 years, started realizing, well, if I do fitness, maybe I should also include eating well, because my fitness also would help if I would start eating well. So I started looking at eating healthy foods, eating smaller portions, and I started recognizing that my health, there was a holistic aspect to my health. What if I slept, I had better sleep, if I reduced stress, ate well, had good fitness, ate complex carbs instead of eating all this sugar, and all this kind of stuff. Started learning the process myself, which I had never learned. And over the course of the next 5 years, started engaging in these types of things. And then it kind of culminated last year with actually doing a full Ironman triathlon.
Wow.
Which was an endeavor I never thought I could ever do in a million years, which was in Madison, Wisconsin, where I basically did a 2.5-mile swim, a 112-mile bike, and then a 26.2-mile run. Did it in 15 hours, and it was one of the greatest achievements physically of my life. Did it in 15 hours, 18 minutes. And when I did that, it was the experience was live on the internet, and so many people from the congregation watched me cross the finish line. My family was there, everyone was cheering me on, and the very next day, I was getting all these Facebook posts saying, if Chris could do this from where he started, he couldn't do a thing. If he could do this, I'm changing my life. I'm going to get out. I'm going to start changing my life. I'm going to start exercising. I'm going to start eating well. I'm going to take my health back over. And what it was a real inspiration. So I was inspired by many people that I was reading and learning along the way, and I was inspired, and many people got inspired along the way from the things that I was doing, because I started from nothing and went all this way to what I did and I accomplished. And I think that's what kind of started the journey for me, and what really started the journey for us as our congregation. And then that was back in this past fall, and then we went into the Daniel Plan this past winter, and just from the inspiration of what people observed through my life, we just started this journey of going through the Daniel Plan, and I think it just kind of took off from there.
Isn't that fantastic? And it again proves the point. I brought back from the wellness thing. I went to Minneapolis a couple of months ago. It starts at the top. Incredible. And really, it's an incredible story. Mm-hmm. And we're not asking people to become Ironmen or anything like that. We'd like to get them on the journey to wellness.
Yeah, and reach your goals. It showed it again that Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. Yeah. He strengthened you, and you inspired others to be strengthened to reach their goals. Yeah. Oh, that's incredible, Pastor.
And the thing about the Daniel Plan is that everyone's at different points in the journey, and wherever you're at, it's not a matter of climbing some big ladder to achieve some great experience, but it's just starting the journey of at least accomplishing something. Maybe it's just being able to walk for 20 minutes a few times a day. Maybe it's cutting back on some eating. Maybe it's eating a little bit healthier. Maybe it's the small wins over time that actually start to make a difference. And the thing about the Daniel Plan that was so instrumental for us as a church is that it's the understanding that we are stewards of our body.
That's right. Yes.
And that God has a calling on all of our lives. Every single person has a calling in life. Every single person has an assignment from God. And that we're dependent on our physical body to fulfill that assignment.
Wow, that's good.
And so we're stewards of our body, and the better that we can steward our body and the health of our body, the more we can fulfill the plan that God has for us. And so every day we're making choices about stewarding our body, what we're eating, how we're taking care of our bodies. And I know that if I'm going to be there for my kids, if I want to play ball with my kids, if I want to help my kids with homework, I know that if I don't feel well, then it's more difficult for me to do the things that I want to do and do the things that God calls me to do. And certainly I'm not in control of everything physically with my body, but I can make the choices every day that can help steward my body. And the Daniel Plan, through those 5 areas of emphasis that you mentioned, Dr. Cashman, helped me make a lifestyle choice that isn't just the latest diet plan, the latest fad, but actually is a sustainable lifestyle choice that affects me the rest of my life, that helps me take my health over again, and actually helps me become the steward of my body that God wants me to be.
Well said.
Well said. I mean, beautiful words. I don't see if anyone. It's hard to add anything to that. God gave us this body, and we are responsible for it. And the way we've been leading lives, I think largely because of lack of knowledge, eventually developing bad habits. We're using sugar to feed our psychology to make us feel good, but that to take small steps and be happy with small steps. And someday we'll be in front of God or Jesus, and he's going to say, what did you do with this body which I gave you? You know, Hippocrates, Plato, Socrates cut the head off the body a couple of thousand years ago, you know, and thought all illness and everything was located in the head, and the body was irrelevant. What the Bible has taught us that indeed the body is attached to our brain, and that we have responsibility for it. You know, and how to take care of it. Cameron, tell us a little bit about what's going on with what we've done so far and what your plans are with the Daniel plan.
Well, we've been really excited, Dr. Cashman, because through the efforts of you that you've have started here with getting us knowledgeable about what the plan was, because when I didn't know anything about the plan before I met you that day in Starbucks.
We met at Starbucks.
And you were telling me about this book you were reading. Just from that little spark, we've been able to gather others who are reading the book and others from across the city who are doing the plan. And tentacles have just kind of just ran wild through the small groups.
The tree is growing.
And it is growing. And many churches, and you know, churches are big, and it's a big ship that's not always easy to turn quickly. But there's many groups within the churches that are raising up small groups of committees that are starting the Daniel Plan. And as people get results, more pastors, we're hoping, will come on board, just as Pastor Chris has done, and lead the whole church from the top to be good stewards over their bodies, their minds, and their spirits. The church has to be responsible not just for the spirit, but for the body as well, and for the emotional well-being, and for helping people to nurture relationships. And this is one of the things that the Daniel Plan is doing. So we're looking to have another launch and gathering everybody who's been doing the Daniel Plan in the city, because there's a lot of small groups that we're not even aware of that are doing it. I want them to just email me, let me know, so that soon when we do pull everybody together, you can be a part. We're going to have a rally here very soon where we're going to bring everybody from the city that's doing it and have them to have some testimonies, have you do a great lecture like you always do about mind, body, spirit, and also have some good food. And we may even be able to have that at Grace Gathering, who knows? Yes.
That would be good, because I think
but there's been a lot of momentum.
Has really gotten into it. But we would, frankly, and we all agreed, we spoke beforehand, that we would like to promote this to the whole community, to all the churches.
Yes.
No matter what the faith is. This is not just about, it's about spirituality and God, and that we all together, because this is a community-wide problem that we're running at 75%. It's throughout the country. 75% overweight population, and the chronic diseases of diabetes and heart disease and strokes, and I did a 1-hour TV show before this, actually, and that 80% of the illnesses that are going to occur at the hospital, we have sick care, can be prevented.
80%.
It's 80%.
That's a pretty large percentage.
Yeah, it's 80%, and that's right out of other books and my experience. And that's the reason I'm so passionate about it. But it's so hard for us to change our habits and the way we think. But to have inspirational stories like Chris here and Pastor.
And there's been
Norman,
so many.
And I mean, that inspires a lot of people. But we ask, for small steps. It doesn't take a lot to turn a case of type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, for example, is curable 90% of the time with the lifestyles that you've been speaking about.
I'll tell you a story. I was just speaking with someone. This was about a month ago. This was someone at our church. I was just passing them by. I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And I know this person has MS.
Yeah.
And I said, just how's your MS doing? And he said, ever since we went through the Daniel plan and I made some changes to my lifestyle, my MS has been dramatically different. I'm so much better, and my MS has been affected. I had no idea that this person even took any of the Daniel plan stuff seriously, and even the stewardship of his health seriously.
Yeah.
But that just was a confirmation to me that the effects of stewarding your body has implications to how you feel and how you're able to function in everyday life.
Yes.
And I mean, I can tell you story after story of things like that. I mean, people not only just losing weight, and it's not a matter of, we don't do it for just looking into the mirror, we're doing it for the one we're trying to mirror. I mean, it's a stewardship, and the motivation, I think, is a big part of this. It's not so that we can look good. It's not a vanity issue.
Yeah.
It's a stewardship issue.
Yes.
So there's biblical roots into what we're trying to do. We know that we have an assignment from God. We know that we are to take care of our bodies. Our bodies are good because they've been created by God. We know that our bodies are affected by the fall, and they're deteriorating, and we know they eventually will die, but we have been given the stewardship of taking care of them while we're here. And that while we're here, we have an assignment, and while we're here, we are to fulfill that assignment, and we can take care of that, those choices, and make the most of those opportunities. And as we do that, we can be the people that God wants us to be, and to maximize those opportunities. And by taking care of our bodies, it's a big part of it, because we are holistic beings.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because, you know, when we did have, at the end of our 6 weeks, we did get some of our 3 groups together, our South group, which is our largest group, our downtown group, which I taught, and also our West group together, and we had a service at my church where we worshiped together, and also had some testimonies about how the experience had been. And everyone, just about everyone, contests to the fact that, you know what, I wasn't thinking so much about the weight loss. I was just trying to be a good steward of my body, and being founded on that faith issue, right there, the faith, that I learned that all the other times I have not been successful has been because I've left the faith issue out. And now that I know that I'm depending on God to help me with this, and the Spirit of God to surround me, you know, with this, I was actually very successful. I needed that extra strength that's grounded in the faith. And they said, you know, as I began to eat healthier food, the weight loss just followed me. You know, it was like goodness and mercy. You know, it just followed me. It just happened. And since I turned around and looked at one day, and I could wear clothes I couldn't wear before. At one lady in my congregation, since we started on the Daniel plan, has lost, she thought it was 32 pounds. She went to her doctor yesterday and testified, so to speak, in church, that it was 42 pounds she lost since she started eating better food. She cut out sugar, she cut out breads, and she's been eating healthy food. I went with her to the grocery store yesterday, and we brought cottage flour. We've been, you know, so she said she's just ecstatic about it. And listen, she was walking with a cane. She's no longer with the cane.
Typical of a pre-diabetic or a diabetic, and they deteriorate. The insulin destroys their joints. So she's got around. That's a great story, and probably wasn't pre-diabetes, diabetes going away. But I think the biggest motivator and the biggest reason that we gather here today, Pastor Norman, I think you're absolutely right. We are stewards of this body, and this is the only way that a significant number of us will ever get the motivation to change. We're responsible for this guy, and it can't just keep on eating everything you want to and not exercising, and there's a responsibility that we have and carry in us. I think is a beautiful word. How many committees? How many committees do you have?
Well,
just approximate.
Well, we when we went through the Daniel plan, we did a 6-week series. Corporately, and then we broke down, and we probably had about 25 small groups that did the Daniel plan through a DVD series. We did one in our home with neighbors. A lot of these small groups were with people that didn't even attend the church. So we invited, our small group was probably half of the people that attended Grace and half the people that were just neighbors. So that was really good. Because the thing is, I mean, people of faith, people who are following Jesus, and people who are outside of faith, all are interested in taking care of their health. So there's a real opportunity to bridge the gap, because everyone's interested in taking care of their body. I don't know anyone who wants to be sick.
Yes.
I don't know anyone who wants to be sick, and I don't know anyone who doesn't want to be well. And so there's a common desire there, and so there's a real opportunity to take this message and bridge the gap that everyone wants to be well, and here's an opportunity to be well, and also to talk about the motivation for being well, and that is God's blessed you with a body, and also an opportunity even to bridge the gospel of Jesus Christ in the midst of that. And so we had 25 small groups, and now since we've done those small groups, we're following up. We do a once a month, we call it run walk. So some people do a 10K run, some people do a 5K, a 10K run, some people do a 5K run, some people do a 1 mile walk. Some people are with their canes are walking. So we get together as a group, we read a Bible passage, we pray, and then we all go and do our various different distances. And we do that together, and we just try to continue to sustain this idea that we're stewards of our body, to continue to move in this direction.
Yeah, I mean, I love those words. Just love those words. So for one thing, can you just visualize, you know, reading a Bible passage, and then you go out do your activities. But the other thing you were talking about, especially, which I didn't even think about and didn't even know, I mean, this could be almost your missionary work.
Absolutely.
And this is what I'm trying to do.
Yes, as an outreach.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
He included the outreach with this program,
Yeah.
and that people who weren't even a part of his congregation got involved. And that is wonderful to introduce them.
And I bet you some of them will turn to
the gospel.
spirituality, to the gospel.
And also form friends.
And form friendships.
Cohorts,
which is part of wellness.
And another element that we emphasized, along with healthy eating, exercise, making good choices, is prayer.
Yes.
And so if I'm not feeling well, we see throughout Scripture that asking and being vulnerable for prayer, if I'm not feeling well, would you mind praying for me? That's another input into the stewardship of my health. And so if I'm willing to ask for prayer, that's a part of the palette of my overall stewardship. So I'm making the choice to eat healthy, exercise, make good choices, rest well, reduce stress, have good rhythms of work rest. I'm making all those choices. I'm also seeking people to pray for me as I need prayer for healing, physical healing. I'm also getting good health care. I mean, so there's all these different areas that form the overall stewardship of my health. That's holistic. Prayer is one of them. And so there's that element of spirituality that's all inclusive in the overall physical health.
I think this prayer thing aspect, I think is great. I just, occasionally we meet at Starbucks. There was a lady sitting next to me, and she works with children, hired part-time in one of the churches. That's her job. And she wasn't necessarily with that faith even, but she in these schools are opening now, so these are great words to say. What she really liked at this church school that she's at, when the children come to school, what's the first thing that they do when they come to this faith-based school? Say a prayer. And at the end of the day, although they don't necessarily go to that church, they say another prayer. She says, you have no idea how good it makes the children feel. Isn't that interesting? Prayer is powerful.
It's very powerful.
It's very powerful.
In fact, I was reading an article, it's been some time now, where they did a scientific study of two groups of people who were in the hospital. They did not even know either group knew that they were being prayed for. That the group that had received the prayer was significantly had a better well-being than the group that was not prayed for.
Yeah, so actually, I read that in LaShan's book.
It convinced me.
On cancer. Actually, they studied scientifically studied that. I think we're going to establish a website. I think is my thought process, where people can tune into us. You know, we put our emails out there, then communicate with us, and think about coming to our meeting September. We'll advertise it.
We will, and our next meeting we'll have it for sure.
Next meeting, and maybe encourage your church to bring this in there. It's not about getting members from their church to join our church. That's not what this is all about. It's about wellness. and to bring it throughout the community, because we're having a very high rate of disease and type 2 diabetes. And of course, I have eyes for it because I know the subject, and I've written too many books, that I'm so concerned about the future, about how to, when I face a person, how to change them. I believe it or not, I've taken up pickleball now besides tennis, and I'm talking to this type 2 diabetic there, and he's playing pickleball for 3 years, so he's exercising, but he still hasn't changed the way he eats, and I'm still weighing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To I like to say, come to one of our Daniel Plan things, because obviously he's not made of his mind. It's lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
He is lack of knowledge. So we're trying to pass the knowledge out there through faith, which is important. Things just do better through faith and prayer. And then the Daniel Plan very tells you what type of food you should be eating.
Yes.
This is not a diet. We agreed. It's not a diet. It's eating different food.
It's not a fad.
It's not a fad. And the plate in the book, isn't it great? It was half non-starchy vegetables, then 1/4 starchy vegetables with whole grain foods, and the other quarter lean meats and some nuts, and to know where's the meat you're eating, coming from. I think a very healthy plate.
Sometimes people ask, what's the best exercise?
Yeah.
Should I run? I can't run. I have bad knees. Or should I swim? Or should I bike? Or should I do what's the best exercise? And the Daniel Plan's clear.
It's clear.
The very best exercise to do is the one that you will do.
The one that you will do.
Whatever one you'll do,
Yes.
that's the best
That's
exercise
the best
to do.
one. Well, no matter
so whatever
what it is.
one you're willing to do, just do that one.
Do that one.
If it's small, if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, start small, just start and just do something.
Do something.
I'm so glad you said that, because if you can make play out of it, and the Daniel book explains it.
It talks about that a lot,
yes.
Like children,
if you can figure out the one that you have loved to do, and that you come back to doing and do it consistently, you're going to be healthy. And even a good walk every day, if you'll do that, that gets you a long way, and maybe all the way. So sort of in summary, Karen, any other words you'd like to say?
I just like to say that I'd like for people to get the book and read it, or get on the website and read it, or get on the YouTube and listen to some of Dr. Cashman's lectures. He has over 70 lectures on wellness, and just begin to make one single step toward living a healthy lifestyle and being a good steward of the wonderful, beautiful body God has given you.
Yeah. Pastor Norman?
Yeah, I'd say the same. I think the Daniel Plan book from Rick Warren is really well done. I think checking your motivation. I think motivation is a big key as to sustainability. And I think if it's just about losing weight, if it's about looking good, that will probably have a short shelf life. But if it's about being a good steward of your life for the rest of the time you have here on earth, I think that has longevity. And I think if that can be the motivation, I think there's some things that could really be done that could have some longevity to pursue
those,
this.
I think, are the most beautiful words we've heard today, Karen, haven't we, really?
Oh, that was
we are
great.
stewards of our body, and obviously we're here because we love you. I hope you attend our meetings. We'll have websites that you can communicate with us, and I hope you become well. It's not a huge thing, but a little step at a time. It's different for every one of us. Again, we love you all. See you at the next show, and maybe see you at one of our services or Daniel Plan meetings. You'll certainly